Good morning. So, I've just been reading some of the written testimony so far. It's really stunning to look at some of the addiction and harm that doctors are seeing. I mean, some of these teens are waking up in the middle of the night to vape. It is stunning. In it, a pediatrician from the American Academy of Pediatrics blames the nicotine salts used in the Juul devices for delivering dramatically higher levels of nicotine to young brains and at toxic levels. This will all be talked about today in a hearing on legislation to reverse the youth tobacco epidemic. Members of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce are hearing from health experts and parents. Now, the bill itself would change the federal law when it comes to the sale and marketing of tobacco products because, as we've reported, Juul has come under fire for marketing to minors with its fruity flavors and also its advertising. So, as it stands right now, the CDC is actually reporting that there are about 220 new cases of lung illness, bringing the total to almost 1,300 nationwide. The number of deaths also has now jumped to 26. So in the meantime, that congressional hearing starts at 7:30 our time. If you would like to see the live stream or read the testimony, you can text the word youth to 206-448-4545 and we will send it to you. But again, that's all happening in about 45 minutes, guys.